Hello everyone, and welcome to the Mojoverse Podcast. I'm Mo.
And this is Joe.
And this episode, we're talking about the finale of a couple of TV shows we watch, as well as some that we're looking forward to. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was we just watched the finale of Game of Thrones. I want to let everybody know that there are going to be spoilers the whole episode, so I would recommend watching the show first before you listen to what we have to say about it. So, the finale of the Game of Thrones, Joe, what just happened?
It was a really awesome episode. A lot of things, loose ends were tied.
Isn't it great how this year they started deviating from the books? And now this is the year where I find it to be the most interesting. The books were such a slow development of the characters, and I could see what he was going for, but it just doesn't really translate to TV that well.
Last year, we almost stopped watching Game of Thrones because we didn't really enjoy last season. We found not much was happening. But this season, though, there was just reveal after reveal, and every single episode was amazing.
Yeah.
And I find, even though I've always hated Cersei, I had an evil grin the entire time with all of her scenes. I'm really impressed how much destruction she can cause.
Yeah, isn't it great how she starts this whole thing? The monks coming in to the city was basically her fault, and her hands were tied so much that the only out she had was to blow up the citadel. It's just amazing to me. Also, the scene where the monks following that child into the cellar seemed kind of pointless. Everything was happening, and I kept looking over to you. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? But then after everything happened, I realized this whole show is about points of view. It's not necessarily about characters, but it is points of view. So what's going on in the capital, what's going on out east, and all that stuff. So having that monk in the cellar really established the point of view to build the suspense for that scene and everybody trying to get out of the citadel, right? So we know that something's going to happen to the citadel, and we're watching everybody trying to escape, but realizing that they're not going to get out on time, right?
It was actually really frustrating when nobody was listening to Marjorie, because then it just hit you as soon as she said it that you knew she was right.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Citadel's gone.
I gotta say that my favorite scene, and this is gonna sound bad, but when Cersei finally gets her retribution on one of the scepters, the one that tortured her, and she has a callback to shame. I'm sorry, but she really deserved it.
Oh yeah, that was funny to see the Mountain take off his mask. That was really cool. Also, we see that scene with Tommen. That was really powerful and surprising, right? I wasn't expecting it. Were you?
No, I didn't expect him to do that at all, but I guess we didn't realize how much of a toll everything was taken on him.
Yeah. The fact that there's so much manipulation and stuff with the Lannisters, also the pressure of being king, and I think he was just finished. My mom is just doing all this manipulative stuff in behind the scenes. I think, he was just finished with it. So that's just crazy.
And it's weird to see with every success that Cersei has had, something follows right after that hits her pretty hard. This is going to be devastating for her. Yeah,
even if you can call this a success, right? Because it was the only way out of her predicament at this point. So it was more of she was back behind a wall, and that was it. And now we're dealing with the repercussions, right? I really liked the scene when Olenna Tyrell was talking with the women in Dorne, the grown women, and then the one that is speaking up. That was just hilarious. It was such a great shutdown, wasn't it?
Let the grown women speak.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people were wondering what Varys was doing there, and then at the end of the episode, he's seen with Daenerys on the ships. They're talking about how he just teleports everywhere, and that's funny, but I didn't see anything weird from those scenes, because all I did was assume that every scene was operating on a different timeline, and they had to make some cuts, because you don't want to see somebody traveling around for 4 episodes.
Yeah, and you're not going to have just, if someone's on a boat, it takes them months to get anywhere on a boat like that, right? So that'd make for a pretty... well, I guess some people would watch it, but for the most part, that's a hard sell to the network anyways.
And next after that, the next scene I can remember is Arya's Sweeney Todd moment, which was pretty disgusting. I love how she wears someone else's face, and then her body type and height changes as well. But I'm glad that this scene happened anyway. I'm not sure how she got a hold of the faces, or if she just learned how to do the art, so she just did it herself while she was there. Yeah,
they're a little ambiguous to that. I like how they're turning her into like a little powerhouse. It's great how she's going back to her little insane, I want to kill the people on my list, right? It's great. I also like how she's in Westeros now, rather than in Essos, so that means now that Sansa and Jon Snow have taken Winterfell, she's now on the continent. She's a lot closer than she was before, so maybe they're going to have a reunion at some point.
A Stark reunion would be nice.
Well, what's left of them anyways, but we'll see. I also like the scene with Daenerys and Tyrion. I thought that was really nice. They have such a great chemistry between the two of them. You can really see they're playing off each other really well. She named Tyrion Hand of the Queen, which was really nice. But what really struck me was the chemistry that they have as actors.
Yes, and Jon Snow being King of the North and everybody accepting it. And we finally get to find out what happened with his heritage, who his mother and father are. Mm-hmm. So that reveal was amazing. I did read about something like that beforehand. Everybody suspected that maybe Jon Snow is a Targaryen, because they were saying that the subtitle of Game of Thrones is the Song of Ice and Fire. Mm-hmm. And Daenerys bringing the fire with her dragons, Jon Snow coming from Winterfell and being the Clash of the Snow.
Yeah. And everybody's talking about Ned Stark having this kid. He just comes back with the kid. So everybody's like, oh, he cheated on his wife. But that always seemed very weird to me. He always seemed like a very devoted
They made sure to bring up his honor a lot and how everybody was surprised he'd do something like that.
Yeah, that was a weird one. So this is a really cool reveal. It also puts Jon Snow in, I want to say it, into the Game of Thrones because... now he has a rightful claim to it. You know, with Daenerys coming down from the east, she's his aunt.
And for those of you confused about the family ties there, Lyanna is Ned Stark's sister. They thought that she was kidnapped by Rhaegar Targaryen. Rhaegar is actually the brother of Daenerys and... the other guy's name escapes me at the beginning.
He died a long time ago. We don't worry about him.
And Rhaegar was killed by Robert Baratheon. I think that she actually wasn't kidnapped because she has a child with him. She asks her brother to please hide the child because Robert would be upset and probably kill him. This means that Daenerys is actually Jon Snow's aunt.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's they were hiding that really well. They really were. I didn't have any inclination to that. I wasn't watching amazingly closely with the history and all that, but there were a couple people online, and they nailed it. Right, that was pretty cool to see.
It brings you back to season 1.
It does. This is going to be a pretty short podcast right now, so we just wanted to touch on real quick Orphan Black. If you guys haven't seen this show, please do. It's Canadian. It's filmed in Toronto. There's all these little nods to Toronto, like the bridge. They had in the last episode, they had a shot of the Sky Dome and the CN Tower over the GO train tracks. It was really cool. Tatiana Maslany is the best actor in the world. We forget that she plays all these clones. The point of the show is there are these clones. They're a science experiment, and then they get caught up in this grand conspiracy corporation, a manipulation thing, right? So there's all these clones and they all look alike, but their characters are so different, their personality is so different, and it's the same actress. She nails it. Her mannerisms change, her voice change, like just the personality change in all the clones is really amazing.
They said even during interviews, the other actors of the show actually forget that she's playing those characters as well and see her as a completely different person every time. Mm-hmm. Our favorite clone is Helena, because everything she says is absolute gold, and I'm glad she came back in the finale saying that her retreat was peaceful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Every time she says anything on screen, we're just laughing, right? It's amazing. I love her skewed sense of moralities. She protects her sisters, but she does it in a very aggressive way. If there's anybody messing with them, yeah.
And I'm not sure how in the finale of Orphan Black how Sarah gets bested by Rachel because she's crippled and she has a hard time getting around. So I thought that seemed to be a little bit weird, but she does lose her mind completely. She took over the Neolution, and she just went absolutely insane after that. It was really cool to see. I thought she was actually going to help them out and start being a force for good in the show. Yeah, for a split second, just a split second, we thought, hey, maybe she's joined the quote rebellion, right? But no, it was all power struggle. So okay, well, we'll see how that goes from there. And then later on, we finally get a Delphine and Cosima reunion, which was so adorable. Totally didn't expect Delphine to still be alive, but I'm glad that she is, because Cosima just suffered way too much this season, I found. It was pretty hard on her. And I'm not really sure at the end of the episode when Delphine asks her if those are the samples for the cure. So I guess that means that she's the one that took them at the end and it wasn't Rachel. Yeah, it definitely seemed like that, right? So, we'll see. She better get better. Yeah, and now we have Moreland being, hundreds of years old at this point, right? That reveal at the end was a bit weird. Yeah. Because now they're introducing a different kind of technology I'm not sure that they can explain. Because usually the science behind this is all pretty explainable, even though it's not happening today. You can see the science behind it, that it could happen eventually. It makes sense. You can imagine that technology that exists, right? So, we'll wait and see. The next season, which is happening for sure, it's been confirmed, is going to be the 5th season, but it's going to be the last season. And that's what the writers were expecting it to be. So I'm glad that they get to do it how they want and that it's not going to be too long. But I feel like, I don't know if they can wrap it up in one more season because we still have so many questions. Yeah, no, that's going to be really hard. I do like how they're doing like a Breaking Bad of it. This is the story. That's the story we wanted to tell. We're done. You can't have the seasons going on way too long. It makes money for the network, but, if you run a story, you run out a story. I just wanted to reiterate Tatiana Maslany. There's one time where she was playing a clone. She was playing Sarah, who was imitating Helena, who was imitating another one. I forget what that was, but it was just so really, really cool to see the clones playing the clones and then have Tatiana have little winks to each character. It was very believable, too. It was really cool. I recommend to everybody. It's not that well-known of a show, but check it out. It is worth it. I know we just spoiled a bunch of stuff now, but it is really worth it, and Season 5 really looks like it's going to be really compelling. One last thing we wanted to mention is the coming premiere of the 2nd season of Killjoys on Canada Day. If you haven't seen it, you got to check that out. This is literally my favorite show since Firefly, and it's actually a little similar to Firefly in the sense that this creator created a huge world full of, there's different religions, cultures, different languages, different planets. Everything's completely made up. There's a whole world out there, and I love how amazing all of the characters and actors are together. It's so good. There's comedy, there's romance, there's action. It's jam-packed with everything. And of course, I love the actor Aaron Ashmore. I find him so adorable. Oh yeah, he was great. And he has like this back and forth with the AI of the ship, right? And they got like a funny little thing going on. We actually got to meet the ship and Aaron Ashmore at Fan Expo, and it was really cool seeing them. And also, when it comes to the world, they created the world, right? And they throw you right into it. Just go. You explore that world and really see what's going on. But also they have like this lore that they're talking about. And there are things that they don't know that they're talking about. It's all rumors, right? And then it actually pays off in the last episode, which was really cool. And the feel of the show as well is futuristic because they do get to fly around in a spaceship in space to different planets. But it also has that old Western feel that Firefly had with the technologies that they have.
And the cliffhanger from season 1, getting back to what I was saying about the lore, they have this area they don't really know about. So I really hope it gets resolved because it's a really compelling story.
Yeah, it actually gave me shivers at the end of season 1, at the last episode, where you see Red 13 written out, where you see Davin come out and they have a zoom out shot.
Yeah, we were just absolutely speechless, right? You guys gotta watch it. It's worth it.
And just mentioning, even though we dislike Dark Matter, that's also coming back for a second season on the same day at the same time. The reason why I don't like this show, if anybody does, sorry, but I just find that it has no life behind it. You don't really get a sense of the world in this one. The dialogue's terrible and corny every single time. Yeah. I can see where there could be an interesting story, but the characters ruin it for me every time.
Yeah, I can't really, it sounds horrible, I can't really like any of the characters because they don't really like each other. They're still trying to figure out their dynamic, right?
And they're very stereotypical characters as well. Nothing unique there.
All of that interplay could be helped with good writing, and unfortunately I don't think this show has it. So, there's some weird dialogue moments, and I don't know. But, if you do like it, you like it, that's great. It's just, we're probably not going to watch season 2. It just didn't really catch us. But, yeah, again, we apologized if you do like it.
Quick mention to Preacher, which we just started watching. We're about 3 or 4 episodes in. It's actually based on a comic book already. So far, I find it to be a little slow pace. A little bit confusing as to what's going on and what direction they're taking, but I'm already in love with the character Cassidy. I find him funny. I don't really care what's going on with the other characters right now. I just wish they'd put more focus on him.
Oh yeah, well, he is the main character for us anyways, right?
Well, he'd better stick around.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, exactly. It's such a neat show because it just doesn't look like anything that's on TV right now. It has a very unique cinematography, right? And the writing's all there because it is based on the comic book. They have a lot of material to go off of. So we'll see. We're about 3 episodes in, and we're interested, so we're going to keep watching. So like I say, this is a short episode this week, and that's all the time we have for today. Join us on the next episode. We're going to discuss our recent anime binging. We're going to talk about different ones that we've been watching and some that we've been rewatching, honestly, because they're so good. Until then, I'm Mo.
And this is Joe.
And join us next time on the Mojoverse Podcast.